Princess Isabella woke up feeling excited. It was her birthday, but instead of throwing a big party with lots of cakes and gifts, she had a different idea. She wanted to do something special. "I want to visit the prison and share love with the people there," she said with a big smile. Her father, the king, was surprised but nodded. Princess Isabella packed a basket full of food, drinks, and gifts. When Princess Isabella arrived at the prison, the place looked gloomy and gray. The walls were tall and rough with small barred windows. Inside, the prisoners, used to the cold, dark rooms, were shocked to see someone as beautiful and kind as the princess entering their world. They had never seen a royal person step into a place like this. The rough looks on their faces softened as they saw her smiling and moving gracefully between them. Princess Isabella handed out food, drinks, and gifts, her smile bringing a little bit of sunshine into the dark and sad prison. Some of the prisoners couldn't believe their eyes. "Why is she here?" they whispered to each other. "Does she really care about us?" But just as she bent down to give a small gift to one prisoner, disaster struck. A sneaky man hiding in the shadows saw his chance. While Isabella wasn't looking, he reached out and snatched her necklace. The necklace was not just any necklace. It was a precious gift from her late mother, Queen Helena, who had passed away. The man quickly stuffed the necklace into his pocket, his eyes gleaming with greed. He thought he was clever, but someone saw him. In a dark corner of the room, a tall, strong, dark-skinned man named Marcus was watching. Marcus's heart ached as he saw the man steal from the kind princess. He couldn't stay quiet. Marcus stood up, his voice calm but firm. "Why did you take the princess's necklace?" The thief turned, a nasty grin spreading across his face. "When I'm free, I'll sell it and become rich. I don't owe her anything." Marcus frowned, his heart heavy. "She came here to help us. If she finds out her necklace is gone, she might never come back, and then we'll all be forgotten again." The thief just laughed, not caring at all. Marcus felt a wave of anger, but he kept calm, knowing that yelling wouldn't solve anything. Their argument grew louder, catching the attention of other prisoners. Some agreed with Marcus, saying it was wrong to steal from the princess. But others, greedy like the thief, thought about the money they could get from the necklace. Meanwhile, Princess Isabella continued her visit happily, unaware of the missing necklace. She finished handing out gifts, then waved goodbye to the prisoners as she climbed back into her carriage. But as they rode back to the castle, Isabella suddenly touched her neck and felt only air. Her heart skipped a beat. The necklace was gone. "Stop the carriage," she shouted, her voice shaking with panic. The carriage screeched to a halt, and Isabella jumped out, her dress trailing behind her as she ran back to the prison. Her heart was racing and tears filled her eyes. How could this happen? She rushed to the prison master, her voice trembling. "My necklace, it's gone. Please help me find it." The guard sprang into action, searching every corner of the prison. When they reached Marcus and the thief, Marcus knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. He looked at the thief, who now seemed a little nervous. "Are you going to give it back, or should I call the guards?" The thief's hands began to shake, and with one final glance at the guards, he threw the necklace to the ground. Marcus quickly picked it up, his heart pounding. "I found it," he shouted to the guards. The necklace was on the floor. Princess Isabella's eyes lit up with relief. She rushed over, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the necklace close to her heart. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft but full of gratitude. "You don't know how much this means to me." Marcus bowed his head, happy to have helped. When Princess Isabella got back to the castle, she told her father and her fiancé, Alexander, about the necklace. Something terrible happened. She explained to them how a dark-skinned prisoner helped find her missing necklace. Alexander, her fiancé, took the necklace and looked closely at it. His face grew dark and his eyes filled with anger. "One of the diamonds is missing," he shouted. The room fell silent, and everyone stared at the necklace. The king's face turned serious. "Bring the prisoner who found it," he ordered. Marcus was taken from the prison and brought to the grand castle. The halls were large and full of shining lights, but Marcus felt small and scared. When he arrived, Alexander, his face full of rage, hit Marcus, accusing him of stealing the diamond. Marcus, shocked and hurt, held his ground. I didn't steal anything. I found the necklace and returned it. But Alexander, too angry to listen, hit him again. Princess Isabella, horrified by the fighting, shouted, "Stop!" Her voice was filled with fear, but Alexander wouldn't listen until King Edward stepped in, commanding the fighting to stop. The king, calm but serious, asked Marcus slowly, his deep voice echoing through the hall, "You claim you didn't steal the necklace. Tell us the truth." Marcus took a deep breath, glancing nervously at Alexander, who stood glaring at him with cold, suspicious eyes. "Your Majesty, I swear it wasn't me. I saw another inmate take it, but I made him return it." Before he could finish, Alexander's voice boomed, "Lies! You're just trying to shift the blame. Guards, bring in this so-called thief." Within a moment, the heavy wooden doors creaked open and the guards marched in with the man Marcus had accused of stealing the necklace. The thief had a sly grin on his face, his clothes dirty, and his eyes shifting nervously. The king's voice boomed through the hall. "Where is the diamond? Tell us the truth, and you may find mercy." The thief's eyes darted around the room before settling on Marcus. "I don't know anything about the necklace," he lied, his voice shaky. "It was Marcus. He stole it." Marcus froze, his breath catching in his throat. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His knees felt weak, and for a moment he thought he might fall. "That's not true," Marcus cried, his voice desperate. "I didn't steal anything. I was only trying to help." But before anyone could say more, Alexander slammed his fist on the table. "Enough!" he shouted, his eyes burned with anger as he ordered his thugs. "Take Marcus outside and punish him." Marcus's heart sank as rough hands grabbed him and dragged him out of the hall. The cold air hit his face as they threw him to the ground. The thugs didn't waste a moment. They began beating him mercilessly. Marcus's body ached with every hit, but he kept shouting, "I didn't steal the necklace. I'm innocent. Please believe me." Back inside the hall, Princess Isabella watched with tears in her eyes. She couldn't stand the sight of Marcus being hurt. "Stop," she pleaded with the king. "This doesn't feel right. We need to investigate." The king looked at his daughter, his face softening. He nodded and ordered the guards to bring in the other prisoner, the one who had seen everything. When the prisoner was brought in, he stood tall and confessed. Marcus didn't steal anything. He was only trying to help. It was the other man, the thief, who took the diamond. The room fell silent. The thief's face turned pale, and he began to tremble. The truth was finally out. Yes, the thief stammered, fear in his voice. "Please forgive me. I stole one of the diamonds from the necklace and hid it in the prison." The king's face darkened with anger. "Take him to the prison and find the diamond," he commanded. The guards grabbed the thief and dragged him away. Everyone followed, including Princess Isabella and Alexander. Inside the prison, the thief nervously approached a loose stone in the wall. With shaking hands, he pulled it out and revealed the sparkling diamond hidden inside. Princess Isabella's heart ached as she looked at Marcus, who was now bruised and battered from a punishment he didn't deserve. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to him, her voice full of regret. "I didn't know you were innocent." Marcus, still in pain, nodded weakly. "It's okay," he said softly, even though it wasn't. As the guards dragged him back to his prison cell, Marcus felt the weight of his bruises, both on his body and in his heart. Isabella watched him disappear into the darkness of the prison, her eyes filled with sorrow. She knew she had to find a way to make things right, but for now, all she could do was watch as the man who tried to help was taken back to the cold, lonely prison. The next day, Princess Isabella couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. She felt a deep sadness for the way he had been treated, so she decided to visit him again in the prison. The air was cold and heavy as she walked through the tall stone walls, her heart heavy with guilt. When Isabella reached Marcus's cell, she saw him sitting quietly, his head bowed. "Marcus," she called gently. He looked up, surprised to see her again. "I came to say I'm truly sorry," Isabella said, her voice soft but sincere. "You were punished for something you didn't do, and I feel terrible. But I also want to know, why are you really in prison?" Marcus sighed, tears welling up in his eyes. My father was a pepper trader, he began, his voice trembling. A wealthy, powerful man paid him to bring pepper from Africa to Europe. It wasn't me who did the business, he explained. It was my father. He was a pepper trader. I was just helping my father, working alongside him to support our family. Marcus's voice broke as he continued. But a terrible storm hit us at sea. The waves were so high and the wind was so strong that we were delayed for days. By the time we reached Europe, the pepper had spoiled. The man my father made the deal with was so angry, he demanded all his money back. Marcus paused, his eyes filling with tears. We couldn't pay him back, and the man had both of us thrown in prison. My father and I were locked up together. Isabella listened, her heart breaking for him. Marcus wiped his eyes before speaking again, his voice trembling with grief. My father wasn't a young man anymore. Being in prison took a toll on him. He became sick, really sick. There was no one to care for him, no medicine to help him get better. He grew weaker and weaker until one day he passed away right here in this prison. Tears now flowed freely down Marcus's face. I watched him die, and I couldn't do anything to save him. Princess Isabella felt her own tears well up. She couldn't imagine the pain Marcus had gone through, losing his father while being wrongfully imprisoned. I'm so sorry, Marcus, Isabella whispered, her voice full of sorrow. I promise I will help you. You don't deserve this. Isabella couldn't stand the thought of Marcus staying in the dark prison for something that wasn't his fault. She promised herself she would help him. I'll talk to my father, she said firmly. We will find a way to get you out of here. When Isabella returned to the castle, she hurried to her father, King Edward, with a heavy heart. She explained everything to him, how Marcus had been helping his father and how his father had tragically died in the prison. The king, moved by the story, agreed to help. He invited the wealthy man who had Marcus and his father imprisoned to the castle. After much negotiation, an agreement was reached. Marcus's father's debt was forgiven, and Marcus was finally freed from his unjust imprisonment. As Marcus walked out of the prison, he felt a mix of relief and deep sadness for his father's loss. Princess Isabella met him with a gentle smile. I'm truly sorry for everything you've gone through, she said softly. Marcus nodded, his eyes full of gratitude, though the weight of his father's passing still hung over him. Thank you for your kindness, Princess, Marcus replied, his voice heavy with emotion. I will never forget what you've done for me. Marcus couldn't stop expressing his gratitude to Princess Isabella as they walked out of the prison gates. His heart was heavy with sadness for his father, but he also felt a sense of relief and hope he hadn't felt in a long time. Princess Isabella, I don't know how to thank you enough, Marcus said, his voice full of emotion. You've saved my life. Isabella smiled kindly. I'm just glad I could help you, Marcus. But I don't want you to worry about your future now that you're free. Marcus looked at her, a little confused. What do you mean, Your Highness? Isabella's eyes sparkled with warmth as she continued. My father owns several farms, and I know they're always looking for hard workers. I've already spoken with him, and I can arrange for you to work on one of his apple farms. You'll be picking apples, and the pay is good. This way, you can save up some money before you're ready to return to Africa. Marcus was stunned. He hadn't expected such kindness. You would do that for me? He asked, his voice thick with gratitude. Of course, Isabella replied. You've been through so much, and I want to make sure you have a fresh start. You deserve a chance to rebuild your life. Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude and relief. Thank you, Princess. Thank you so much. I will work hard, I promise. I will save every coin until I'm ready to return home. Marcus couldn't believe his luck. Not only had he been freed from prison, but now he had a chance to work and earn money to start his life anew. As they parted ways, Marcus's heart swelled with hope, and he silently promised himself to make the most of the opportunity Isabella had given him. I will never forget your kindness, Princess, Marcus said, bowing deeply. Isabella smiled once more, watching as Marcus walked away with a new sense of purpose. She knew that though his journey had been painful, he was now on a path to healing and hope. Marcus started his new job as an apple picker on the king's farm, and from the very first day, he proved himself to be one of the hardest workers. Every day, he picked more apples than anyone else, and he worked tirelessly, knowing that each coin he earned brought him closer to his dream of returning to Africa. With every passing day, Marcus saved his coins, hoping to one day build a better life. Princess Isabella often visited the farm, checking on him. She admired his dedication and perseverance, and their bond grew with each visit. Isabella admired Marcus's determination and hard work, but her fiancé Alexander was not pleased with Marcus's presence. Alexander always frowned when he saw Isabella looking at Marcus, his eyes full of suspicion and jealousy. Despite Alexander's growing discomfort, Isabella found herself drawn to Marcus's simplicity and kindness. She began visiting the farm more frequently, and with time, she and Marcus grew closer. However, their growing friendship did not go unnoticed. Alexander, who was already angry with Marcus, began to watch them closely. He could see how Isabella enjoyed Marcus's company, and it filled him with jealousy. Though Alexander wished he could fire Marcus, he knew he had no power over him. Marcus was employed by the king himself, and no matter how much it bothered him, Alexander had to watch from a distance as Isabella and Marcus grew closer. One day, Alexander went to the castle eager to see Princess Isabella, but a servant informed him she's at the farm. Alexander, feeling curious, decided to search for her. When he arrived, he saw something that made his heart burn with anger. Princess Isabella was sitting under a large tree, talking and laughing with Marcus. The sight of them together stirred up a storm of jealousy inside him. His face turned red, and without saying a word, Alexander stormed off, heading straight home. When he reached his father, Richard, he couldn't hold back his frustration. "Father, you won't believe what I saw today. That poor boy Marcus is getting too close to Princess Isabella." Alexander spat, his fists clenched in anger. His father, sitting calmly in his chair, listened carefully. With a calm but cunning voice, Richard said, "Son, this is exactly why you must marry Princess Isabella quickly. Once you do, we can take control of the kingdom. You will father the next king, and we will remove anyone who stands in our way." A few days later, Alexander and his father visited the king. They convinced him that the marriage between Alexander and Princess Isabella should happen soon. The king, thinking it was a good idea, agreed. In no time, Alexander and Isabella were married. But just a few months after the wedding, something terrible happened. The king was poisoned. Princess Isabella was heartbroken. Her father was her only family, and now he was gone. Alexander and his father wasted no time. They quickly took over the kingdom, making life hard for everyone, especially Marcus. The new rulers were cruel, reducing Marcus's income and enforcing harsh policies. Marcus, unable to survive in the kingdom anymore, began preparing to return to Africa. Even when Isabella tried to complain, Alexander and his father ignored her, treating her like she no longer mattered in her father's kingdom. One night, as Isabella lay in bed, she noticed something strange. Alexander wasn't beside her. She quietly got out of bed and wandered through the dark castle halls. As she passed a room, she heard whispers. Peeking through a crack in the door, she froze. Alexander was talking to his father, and their voices were low but full of wickedness. "Get Isabella pregnant as soon as possible," Richard whispered. "Once the child is born, we will do to her what we did to her father. The throne will be ours, and no one will ever challenge us." Isabella's heart broke. Tears ran down her cheeks as she realized the truth. Alexander was planning to kill her after their child was born. She placed her hand on her belly, trembling with fear. She spent the entire night crying, feeling more alone than ever. The next morning, desperate and scared, she rushed to the farm to find Marcus. As soon as she saw him, she broke down, telling him everything. How Alexander and his father killed her father, and how they planned to kill her too. Marcus listened, his eyes full of shock and sadness. He gently hugged her, tried to comfort her. But before they could say more, a loud voice echoed behind them. "What are you doing with my wife?" It was Alexander, and he was furious. He marched over and slapped Marcus so hard that he stumbled. "Guard, Alexander shouted, "Take him away. Lock him in the prison and don't let him out." Isabella cried out, begging Alexander to stop, but he didn't listen. The guards dragged Marcus away as Isabella watched helplessly, her heart shattering. That night, unable to sleep, Isabella came up with a plan. She had to act fast. When the castle was quiet, she snuck out, making sure no one saw her. She went to the prison where Marcus was held. When Marcus saw her, he was shocked. "Isabella, what are you doing here?" he whispered. Princess Isabella looked at Marcus with tears in her eyes. She took a deep breath and said softly, "I want you to be the father of my child." Marcus froze, realizing what she meant. His heart raced with fear and worry. It was risky, and Marcus knew it could cost him everything. But he also knew they had no other choice if they wanted to survive and save the people from the harsh hand of Alexander and his father. A few months passed, and soon everyone in the kingdom was talking about one thing. Princess Isabella was pregnant. Alexander and his father, Richard, were thrilled. Alexander couldn't stop smiling, thinking about how the baby would make him more powerful. The news spread like wildfire, and the whole castle buzzed with excitement. As the days passed, Isabella's belly grew, and so did her fear. Then, one afternoon, Isabella went into labor. The castle was filled with tension. Servants rushed around preparing for the birth, while Isabella's cries echoed through the halls. Alexander, however, didn't care about Isabella's pain. He only cared about the child. "Tell me as soon as the baby is born," he ordered the guards coldly before leaving the castle in his shiny chariot. He didn't even wait to see his wife. He rode off to the farm, his mind focused only on the baby he thought would be his heir. Hours passed. Isabella struggled through the pain, her heart beating fast with worry. Finally, the baby was born. But when the midwife picked up the child, she gasped and nearly dropped him. The baby had dark skin. This only meant one thing. The baby was Marcus's child, not Alexander's. Princess Isabella's heart pounded as she stared at her son. Fear and joy mixed inside her. She had a beautiful baby boy, but if Alexander found out, it would be the end for her and Marcus. She hugged her baby close, her mind racing. With the last bit of strength she had, Isabella wrapped the baby tightly in a blanket. She turned to the loyal guard who stood by and whispered urgently, "Take the baby and me to the prison now." The guard obeyed without hesitation. Isabella, weak from childbirth, was carefully placed into the chariot along with her newborn son. They raced to the prison as quickly as the horses could carry them. When they arrived, she ordered the prison guard to release Marcus immediately. Marcus, confused but relieved, was freed. Isabella, still trembling from exhaustion, explained everything. "Marcus, this child is yours. Alexander will kill us if he finds out. We have to run now." Marcus's eyes widened with both joy and terror. There was no time to celebrate. He knew the gravity of the situation. Without wasting a moment, Marcus climbed into the chariot, and with Isabella and the baby beside him, he urged the horses forward, racing to get as far away from the kingdom as possible. Back at the castle, Alexander returned only to find that Isabella was gone. His anger exploded when he realized no one could tell him where she had gone. Enraged, he rode straight to the prison. Upon hearing that Isabella had taken Marcus and the child away, his fury grew even more dangerous. "Find them," Alexander bellowed at his guards. "Go to the sea. They must be heading there to escape. Bring them back, or I will have your heads." With a sinister determination, Alexander gathered more guards and set off toward the sea himself, intent on catching them before they could flee the kingdom. He was not going to let them escape that easily. When Isabella and Marcus got to the sea, they stood there staring at the vast blue water, thinking of what to do next. Suddenly, the sound of horses running filled the air. Isabella's heart raced. She looked back and saw Alexander and his guards coming fast. "Alexander!" she gasped in fear. Marcus spotted a small fishing boat tied at the riverbank. "We need to go right now," he shouted, grabbing her hand. They ran to the boat as fast as they could, their feet barely touching the ground. They jumped into the boat, and Marcus started paddling quickly. The boat wobbled for a moment, then moved forward across the water. Isabella held their baby tightly, her hands shaking as she kept looking back. Alexander and his men had reached the shore and were now getting into another boat, rowing fast toward them. "Faster, Marcus, they're coming." Isabella's voice was filled with worry. The guards were getting closer and closer. Marcus kept paddling hard, but he knew they wouldn't be able to get away fast enough. He looked at Isabella, his face serious. "I have to stop them," he said. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "No, Marcus, don't leave us, please," she begged, her voice shaking. But Marcus had already made his choice. He handed the oars to Isabella. "Take the baby and steer the boat. Keep going. Don't stop, no matter what happens." Tears ran down Isabella's face. Her hands trembled as she took the oars. "Oh, please," she cried, not wanting him to go. Without another word, Marcus jumped into Alexander's boat, making it tip. The guards lost their balance, and two of them fell into the water with a splash. The boat rocked wildly, and the men struggled to get back up. "Go, Isabella, go!" Marcus yelled as he fought the other guards. One grabbed him around the neck, trying to hold him down. Isabella's heart broke as she saw Marcus fighting to protect them. But she knew what she had to do. She turned the boat and started paddling as hard as she could, her arms burning with every stroke. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she kept going, knowing it was the only way to keep her baby safe. Behind her, Marcus's voice grew quieter as she paddled away, and Isabella's heart sank, afraid she might never see him again.